welcome to Lullabies Liberation, Empowering the Black Experience in Healthcare, a podcast presented by NDoula Community Alliance. I'm Mai Heath, naturopathic doctor and executive director of NDoula. This podcast is intended to get information about healthcare experiences, discussions around these topics out to the community, and also engage the community and get their perspectives. The statements and point of views you might hear, the different perspectives from our guest speakers, do not necessarily represent the views of NDoula. I'm joined by my co-host and media veteran, Miss Natalie Battles. Welcome, Natalie. So happy to have you here.
Happy to be here. I'm really excited about today's topic because I'm personally going to learn more about NDoula Community Alliance. And not only that, we're also talking about culturally competent prenatal care, which is super important, definitely important to me, and I know it's important to you too.
You got that right. And we are joined today by birth worker, community leader extraordinaire, Miss Jessica Runnels-Morrissette. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Would you like to tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. So Jessica Runnels-Morrissette. I am a mother, a doula, a community worker. I also work for Westside United, and I'm also a wellness practitioner.
Yeah, so many things. All the different hats.
All the things.
And I can't forget, I'm also a community. I am a committee member for NDoula. How can I forget that?
You are. You're so many things for us, and we're happy to have you and happy to get into the topic today. I mean, this is our introduction, our first podcast episode. So, NDoula Community Alliance, we are a 501c3 nonprofit.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. You want to get that nonprofit status so that you can move and shake even better for the folks in the community that you want to serve.
For sure.
And, I often call us like a social justice, health equity focused organization. Mm-hmm. We do attempt, and I believe we succeed little by little in changing perceptions and policy around folks' access to traditional healthcare, to holistic healthcare, which is a number of different things, and not necessarily that it's well defined, but one of the things that are involved with it is birth work, including naturopathic and midwifery care and naturopathic work. Just trying to make sure, like I said, that folks in the community that we serve in particular, and our target demographic are birthing folks, are queer people, folks with chronic conditions, really anyone that finds themselves vulnerable within healthcare settings. So even though, it says NDoula, and the N stands for naturopathic, we're birth workers for sure, but not just advocates or supports for people on reproductive journeys or birthing people, but also just patient advocates in general for vulnerable people who find themselves, in experiences within healthcare. A lot of times tough experiences. Not always. We have joy and advocates within healthcare spaces as well. But when you look at, being female or a female identifying person, when you look at being a birthing person, when you look at being a person of color, especially a black person, then there's just so many stumbling blocks that are often put in our way, so many hoops often put in our way, and one of the biggest one of those is lack of knowledge of how things can be. So I think that that's something, that we try to do at NDoula too, is trying to get people to have more options and say, hey, this is something that you could have. This is what some other folks have. This is what you could have. And then let's also dream and envision of how we would like for things to be so that we can be innovative and creative about changing these experiences that we have.
Yeah.
And would you say that's what sets NDoula apart from other birthing spaces that may exist?
Yeah, I think think one of the biggest things that sets NDoula apart is that naturopathic component, that like opening it up, that, birth work is community work.
Yeah.
I like to look at the community as a caregiver in itself and say, okay, this person is having a baby. They're going to be bringing a baby home. They're going to be bringing a baby into this community. How does this shop owner over here, or lack of shop owner over here, impact this little one's growth, development, the tone in their household, the stress, tension in their household, that kind of thing. How does the public resources, libraries, fire departments, whatever, how does that impact? And then, so I started kind of far out, but I mean, going closer, of course, like all the essential things we need, food, shelter, of course, those things too. But I do think that that's one thing that makes NDoula unique. We look at the community as a caregiver. We have that naturopathic slant, that patient advocacy slant. And I mean, community is a verb. So just like that active dedication to pulling collective power among the folks that are around. And we know there's so many of us doing work, and we do it slightly different. And or even sometimes there's like a lot of overlap and we do things the same. And I think that's okay. I think, having so many people kind of having different approaches and perspective to the work, I think it can only be exponential. So working together at times, working apart at times, I think it all adds to, to the picture and hopefully to the success. That's what I hope.
Mm-hmm. And might I add, that is such a sound bite, right? Community is a verb. Mm-hmm. Come on, like that whole, come on, we gonna chop and screw that, cut that, put that on Instagram. People just need to hear that part. That part right
it's action,
there, okay? Perfect soundbite, because it is, and I've never heard it said quite that way. Mm-hmm. It's true. And then you're the founder of NDoula. You created this. Can you tell us a little bit about what led you to this point in your life and why you thought this work was necessary?
Yeah, I'd love to. Oh my gosh. And people who know me know I'm so long-winded. I'm like, it was a dark and stormy night in 1983. No, but really at the heart of it, why I started NDoula, I was in a time where I was moving from community-based doula work. I started off as a private practice doula in Toronto. So the whole like system of healthcare, I got used to that, used to OHIP, used to having, socialized healthcare and all that kind of stuff. And then when we came back, I'm not Canadian, when we came back to Chicago, came back to the States, it was the first time I had ever heard of community-based doulas, and I was jazzed. I was like, that's innovation, that's cool, like, wow. And Chicago should be really, really proud, because we really are the birthplace of community-based doula work, and goodness, it was like, early 90s when that work kind of started. But anyway, we can talk more about that later. But so yeah, I was doing community-based doula work for like 5 years or so. And then when I decided to transition away from that and to do more nonprofit management, I found that I was missing the connections that I had with the birthing people, their little ones, their families. And so I started, this is before NDoula was even thought of. I started a mentorship offering. I won't even say program. I started a mentorship offering, and I, just put it out there. I kept in touch with the folks that I had supported before, and I put it out there to the community. Like, if you consider yourself a vulnerable person, pretty much, the criteria was like, if you're a birth worker, healthcare worker, or student, or studying to be so, or if you are, a vulnerable person, some of those things that we had mentioned, especially in healthcare spaces, and you just want a pillar of support, someone to strategically plan with, help you get resources, identify goals, I'll be that person. And that was really successful. We had like 24 folks, kind of register and continue that sort of relationship. And like I said, didn't really know anything about nonprofit management, was not thinking about that until it was like, wow, if we had some money, some resources, we could do some luncheons, we could do some outings, we could just make more impact. And that's when it was like, oh gosh, we should incorporate in this way. And then it just, took off. We incorporated in December 2022, though everyone in the org has been doing this work for a lot longer. We've got family support workers, we got students, master public health students, we got social work students, we got naturopathic medical students in our community. So
necessary.
Yeah, so the people have been doing this work for a long time, even though we've only been incorporated for our third year.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that. That's really interesting. I didn't know that that's how it began. Jessica, did you know that,
No, I
that
did
roundabout?
not.
See, we
I
learned
love hearing the origin story. It's great.
And look, let me sauce it up a little bit too, because I can't. You got to have the good with the bad. You got put right because the bad, right? So that was all good and that was lovely. I like I said, I was doing nonprofit management, working with various maternal and reproductive child health organizations in the city, doing various work, a lot of design and stuff like that. But I found a lot of lateral violence in these spaces, and I felt unequipped. I felt unequipped. You know, I wasn't expecting it. So when I say lateral violence, like people who are culturally reflective to me, a lot of, you know, Black women and things like this in the spaces, and not everyone, but I had some experiences that were so hurtful, and they made me kind of really look for a space where I didn't have to feel like that anymore. That's what that was. And so also kind of putting that happening at the time that the mentorship was happening and these changes in work and career were happening, and then reaching out to, you know, former colleagues and other people like that were in their mentorship community too, and just finding that they were interested in having a space where they were like, oh yeah, I feel comfortable with people who are around here. I can trust people who are around here, and that human element is something that we wanted to have. We weren't trying to like corporate it out, you know. We felt comfortable to be like, we care about each other, regardless if you want to say we're family or we're friends or not, you know, because some people can feel very uncomfortable about using that in kind of like professional spaces like family. But I would say a lot of us in doula, we feel like, you know, we feel that connection. We feel, you know, like I say, we can, our kids hang out, or, you know, we spend time, I'm so sorry, we enjoy each other's company, you know, and I think that was something at the time that I need, and something we constantly put into like our planning and growth and all that kind of stuff. It's like, we want to take care of ourselves as individuals and as a unit just as much as we want to take care of the community as well.
Yeah. So. And that's necessary, because when you are outwardly facing and doing the work for the community, you have to pour back into yourself, or you'll end up depleted real fast, and you won't be as pleasant, or as that's effective. A nice way of saying it, when you go out to do the work for the community. And unfortunately, you see that a lot. Maybe someone started with good intentions and good energy, but then you see they kind of end up a little snappy or whatever, because they don't put that self-care plan together. So it's very important that you do pour into yourself, and that, one, congratulations for creating a safe space, not only for you, but for the people that work with you and the community, where they know they can come to this place and not experience those triggers and those traumas that you did. So you experienced something, and you didn't just get upset about it or be sad about it. You said, I'm going to create something different so other people don't have to experience this either. And that's a very beautiful thing. And I hope you really take a moment to take that in. Congratulations, ma'am.
Thank you. That's the hope. Healing. That's the hope, and I hope that it's felt. I believe that it's felt. And, you know, just like when you're saying, like, you know, sometimes people get burnt out and they get at their end of their rope and all that kind of stuff, and they can do harm, right? Tenet of naturopathic medicine and allopathic medicine. If I say allopath, that's like conventional medical doctors, things like that. But the first tenet in both of those is first do no harm. So I hear you saying, like, you know, if you don't take care of yourself, you can do harm. And that's so true. But then also, just to be, you know, honest and straightforward, we have ups and downs and things like that. But it's like when you can acknowledge, like, oh, maybe I'm not showing up like I want to show up, or how I intend to show up for the community or for my colleagues or anything like that, then acknowledging that really happened and putting energy into making changes, not just being like, hey, they gonna get, you know, that kind of thing. But we're certainly not perfect over here.
No, definitely. Nobody's perfect, but I think it's definitely that acknowledgement. I think a lot of times in mainstream care, it's like, this the system, this how it's gonna be. I got the patients to see, you got a fever or not, you need some medicine or not. Like, you know, it's kind of rushed. And that's not every doctor, I understand, but it can come off that way a lot of times. But to be able to be in a space where you can slow down, and then emotionally intelligent enough and have the tools to slow down and say, hold on, I ain't go about this the right way, and then change it. That's what matters, because as humans, we gonna make mistakes. We gonna feel some kind of way. We got a range of emotions. We gonna go through them all sometimes in one day. But to be able to correct is the best thing, and to adjust and self-analyze what's happening and then do the work to fix it. That's the best part. And Jessica, I have a question for you.
Okay.
What led you to NDoula?
Well, I was just gonna say, I can attest to all that Mai said. Being, a newer community member, like, it is the human experience. Like, it's doing great work, and like you're making a change, but feeling seen. That's what everybody wants. Everybody wants to feel seen and heard, but feeling seen and heard and cared for. Like, family is such a big deal to me. And when I come into a space and it's familial, like, it's family oriented, like, I know they care for me. They got my back. They're going to feed me, that, because I need to eat. And that is care. Like, checking for, your loved one and making sure they ate today, because you need that fuel. And you're right. That kind of is the difference of just kind of going through, procedures and taking away the human experience. Sometimes being in a medical environment, it feels inhumane. And so coming to NDoula, I understood the mission, I understood the vision, but then I got the human experience, so I'm here to stay.
Hey,
so I think that's what led me. It was collective work that initially led me, but what kept me is the food and but no, and the community. It really is community oriented, and I think it's always. I'm a firm believer that you need to start in house. You need to start from home, and then that's what's manifested. That's what's reflected into the external work. So.
Absolutely. And then you mentioned the mission and the vision. Can you all just share?
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm not going to screw it up like that. Mai would be the better person to do it. I love it. I attest, but let me give that to the executive director.
And I'm going to go off the top because I don't have it memorized verbatim, but I'm going to give you the heart and the soul.
That's what we need.
It is. So we want to positively affect the quality of life gap, in Chicago, because it definitely exists and it touches so many different things. And I think the way that we go about our mission, the way that we go about addressing the quality of life gap in Chicago is by affecting the perceptions and the policies around folks' access, autonomy to options within healthcare, options within ways that they can keep themselves healthy, the way that they think about their health and their loved ones, the way they take care of their loved ones. So in large part, that's, it's resource sharing, but it's also skill sharing, it's knowledge sharing. And like I was saying earlier, like just raising awareness and raising folks' understanding of what their options are. So there's that. There's also a commitment to taking care of the target demographic I've always talked about, right? The people who are vulnerable in healthcare settings, but also taking care of care workers. And I didn't bring that up when you asked that earlier, Natalie.
That's important.
But that's another thing that sets NDoula apart. And we've talked about this a lot in our meetings, is that we want NDoula to be a soft landing space for people, especially for care workers, And folks might not necessarily consider themselves a care worker, but if you are expending energy to take care of others, then you're involved with care work. More traditionally, we might think, of course, our doulas, our midwives, our doctors, our naturopaths, and things like that. But also the folks that take care of our elderly people, and our elders, right? The folks that take care of our youth, but especially our youth with special needs, or our youth that are parenting, or anything like that. So I'm really proud about that, and we've been digging into that more this year, really, making sure that we are highlighting that and taking care of people who take care of others. I'll leave it at that. We do have a vision to see, in Chicago that patients and birthing people can have culturally reflective and culturally competent supports that are going to put patient-centeredness first, put the patient first, and to help be advocates, the best advocates for patients, which also includes helping them get access to healthcare options of their choice, or educating them about healthcare options, even if it's not within your own vocation. So that's what we envision, that's what we hope. And we often have like lofty kind of hopes and dreams, but you gotta hope and dream big so that you can kind of make a new future and make new ideas about where we can get to.
Absolutely. And then what are some of the things that you all do? And if you got favorite programs, y'all might have favorites. But what are some of the things that you all offer to the community currently?
How about you start with that, Jessica? Because you might have a favorite. Sorry.
Do I have a favorite? I usually don't play favorites.
So, but we love all our programs equally.
We do. I mean, I guess I joined initially as an ERH member, but I know that is a joint.
ERH, so that's Elemental Reproductive Healing. I definitely thought that you were going to say ERH. So Elemental Reproductive Healing Arts is a program that we offer that it's a place where we practice self-advocacy skills that you would hope to have access to or to use in healthcare spaces. So patient advocacy skills and things like that. So we practice those, we learn about those, we talk about those, but then we also create art together as a community.
Nice.
And it's not like we're a group of artists necessarily. You don't have to be an artist to join, but you do have to have that willingness and that curiosity to see what you can create out of the catharsis of talking about your experiences or learning, new ways about how future experiences can be. So that's Elemental, and like Jessica said, that's how she came into the org. But we also have, so I meant to mention the mentorship community. It's definitely, all the learning and everything is a two-way street, so we call it, it's a mentorship community. Which also we host interns quite a bit so that we can help, students, master's level students get experience, field experience, so that they can have good information to, be the future of public policy, health policy, public
Set
health.
them up right.
All of that, social work, all of that. So that's another thing we do. We also offer the Legacy Wellness Initiative Warm Line. So that is, and we're not all just doulas, but at first I thought about calling it Dial a Doula.
Dial a Doula.
Dial a Doula, but we're not just. Dial a Patient Advocate or whatever. But the intention, it's a non-emergent line, so it's a warm line. Usually you have to leave a voice message or a text message, and we'll get back to you. But it's a space where people can prepare for upcoming health appointments, or they can debrief from medical experiences that maybe they had. They can, of course, get resources. They can just have a listening ear, right? Sometimes people are like, man, I had this experience. I don't know what the recourse is after that, so we can help them process that and also archive experiences. And of course, a lot of times we get people calling with birth experiences. And so we're archiving that. Sometimes they have some really hard birth experiences. And so listening to those, like I say, providing support and then also resources and things like that. And let me see, what have I missed? So we talked about Legacy Wellness, Elemental, our mentorship community.
Jessica, did you have another one? I think you started
I was trying to
saying
think. I was listening
the one
to
you
Maya.
came in with, and then it sounded like you were going to say, but.
No. I think, I was going to add more to ERH and just talk about how I love interdisciplinary work. And, so it combines the artist with the, kind of community worker, and then it deals with kind of social justice issues. So it's just a beautiful combination. I was going to brag. I was going to emphasize on ERH, but I actually am glad that Mai took over because, again, I am newer, so I'm learning, but I'm just so enamored by everything that I am kind of just confronted with when it comes to NDoula. It really is. I'm not biased. I was about to say, I'm just
okay.
I have a favorite, and it's mostly because it was the one that I attended virtually, where, and I don't know the name of it, but y'all, it was really, really good. If they do it again, y'all need to tap in. But they sent care packages for free $99, y'all, to the house, decorated by the children. Okay,
see, that's new. I didn't even know. Okay.
And inside it was coconut oil, and it was containers to store things, and it was mustard, not like a jar of mustard, but the seasoning mustard in powder form. Okay, powdered mustard, and towels, and all of these different things, and castor oil, and all of these things in this care package. And then we got online all together, and they kind of walk through ways that we can use some of these every day, go to the store and get things to heal ourselves. And it was amazing.
I love that you loved it and that you're using it. And yes, you were on that. And that's what I was going to say. The one that was escaping me, is our workshops.
We love the
and
workshops.
That's part of our, obviously like community engagement, community partnership, even continuing education, professional development. So NDoula hosts workshops throughout the year, often tailored to, what folks need. At times we do have some standalone ones. So the one that you're talking about was the Compassion Recharge VR, because it was a virtual event, and it was the follow-up to the initial, our very first event ever. It was held in November 2023, I think it was, and it was called the Compassion Recharge. We were in North Lawndale. We held this event, and the CRVR was a follow-up to that you attended, Natalie. And so that brings me to our holistic home care kits. So we do some of the workshop topics tend to be around like patient advocacy in vulnerable communities, patient advocacy in the Black community, in Black teens, in parenting people, things like that. But we also always include some sort of component of this, what we call the holistic home healthcare kit. And that's what Natalie was describing. So every time we have a workshop, we will bring some sort of naturopathic modality into it. It's often botanical medicine or nutraceuticals, which are vitamins and supplements at therapeutic doses. And the cool thing is that if you've attended all of our events, or the more sort of like offerings that you engage with us, you are really building out like your home.
Your apothecary.
Right? Your apothecary, your medicine cabinet, your supplement cabinet, however you want to think about it. I would say like at our very first event, let me see, we gave out, everything from ginger to onion to cheesecloth to, like I said, castor oil, fenugreek, and we always tie it into something. So like when we did Black Breast and Body Feeding Week last August, we gave out fenugreek because that is known to be a galactagogue, or something that helps with milk production, and it's also safe in lactation or during that time. So we do a workshop, and we don't just give it to you like, hey, go and use it, but we do a workshop that talks about the principles of the constituents that are in the holistic care kit, uses, risks, benefits, contraindication, how they might interact with other treatments, maybe conventional treatments that you're using, and also information about how you can work with experts in, whether it be in naturopathy or whatever, any other sort of field that's appropriate. So yeah, we cannot forget our NDoula workshops. I'm really proud about those.
Well, then I got a new favorite. This sounds like that's my favorite, and that's a hit. That we need to continue. So I'm going to push as a community, or I keep using that word, as a committee member. I'm pushing forward, Natalie. That's your hit. Yeah, that's your favorite. More of those. And it is. It's a reconnection to our ancestors with those practices that are often lost, or often, kind of looked down upon. And yeah, I would love to know how to use some of the stuff.
Maybe some mustard, honey. I was over there like,
tell me about the
honey. Tell me about
mustard seed oil.
Yeah, we learned how to do a mustard poultice.
All of that.
Be used
all
for,
of
like,
it.
chest congestion. We talked about.
I had no idea about that.
And I love too. After that event, towards the end, we try to open up for open discussion, because that's what the community likes. They like to not just share their stories, but pass their stories on to other folks. So I remember people saying like, oh hey, you brought the castor oil in to be used as part of this. We also gave out cayenne, remember, to be used as part of this like anti-inflammatory poultice. But did you know my mama or my grandmama, my granddaddy used to use castor oil for blah blah blah. I think the person on there was talking about pinworms and things like that. And I was like, yes, that is a
spoonful of castor.
Right,
that's what my grandma used to do.
Yeah, and we
can share these stories because I think it's easy for us to think that it's like our generation that are losing these stories, but we have been losing these stories and this information for many generations. Like even if I go to my parents, both my parents were born in the 1940s in Kentucky and Mississippi, and like even them, I remember them telling me stories about like, grandpa this or grandma this they would do this, or they rub themselves down with this after or whatnot. They don't even have the full story.
The context.
So I try to like get, any space for us to like share experiences, share stories, kind of continue to archive the way we've taken care of ourselves in and outside of conventional healthcare systems.
So
I'm here for it.
And that brings healing and empowerment, and obviously education, but also, it connects us as a community, connects us to, it's an intergenerational, connection. And there was one more thing I was going to say, but I lost it. But I'm like excited about this. and I think this needs to be pushed because it definitely is something that is needed. It's healing.
Yeah, it's definitely healing.
The step to healing, yeah. And preventative, I think I said
that's it.
That was the word. I said healing already. But it's preventative. Not to be mistaken with, to be used as like medicine, like once you have an ailment. I want to make that disclaimer, and you could probably speak more to that. But just the moving forward in a path of a healthy, holistic lifestyle that can definitely be preventative, or even if you're predisposed to certain, diseases, it can just kind of help lessen that
and
chance.
I think it goes into what Mai was saying earlier too about just having the options on different things, because like there's pain relief and like the chest opening and there's so many different things that we can use what nature has already given us, what Creator has already given us, and that we've been using for millennia to heal ourselves, other than when we can the medicine from the drugstore, because a lot of times those things come with other effects, but they're pulling pieces from the source anyway, which is the things that we can use to heal ourselves if we know how to use it properly.
Right. If we know how is the point. And that kind of goes to that part where you're kind of like, well, maybe they're more for preventative than actual treatment. If you know how to use it, and if it's an appropriate sort of condition or situation, it can certainly be medicine. It just, like I say, depends on the situation. And I think when appropriate or as appropriate, NDoula is also here to help increase awareness around what those sort of conditions look like. And that we realize that that's not something that our healthcare providers always take time to explain to us or share with us, or this is a yellow flag, this is a red flag. It's just, there's a lot of like, lack of autonomy and kind of, abdicating responsibility to your healthcare providers in the conventional system, I think. And we often can be treated like, it's above you, it's outside of your understanding. So
just do what I say, pretty much.
Just do what I say. But I'll give an example where, something can be a treatment. Actually, before I do that, I'll say this is something I've also said. Naturopathic medicine, in particular, is a form of primary health care. But if you get shot or stabbed, you don't go to a naturopath. You go to the ER. If you have uncontrolled diabetes, you don't go. Well, you need to go to a conventional healthcare provider, and you need to see a naturopath as well.
And I think that definitely leads us into the second half of the topic, which is that culturally competent prenatal care. Now, what does that mean? Culturally competent prenatal care. I want to know, like, individually, what do you personally feel that means to you?
Well, we were just discussing this, and culturally competence, when I think about prenatal care or even just health care in general, but I guess if we're going to focus on prenatal care, safety is the first thing that comes to mind, because I want to ensure that this person sees me, understands me, and is doing things in my best interest to keep me safe.
Okay.
So culturally competent, like it's the competency, like the understanding, the knowledge base. And if you don't have that, if you don't understand that although yes, we are human beings, we're all of the human race, but I am different. I am different in lots of ways. My hair, defies gravity in a sense where others don't,
Yes.
My gums, we were talking about this. My gums, I don't have a gum disease. They are pigmented, they're dark. Now, of course, I'm a little on the light skin, but I still have pigmentation in my skin. These are all things that need to be understood from every fiber of my body, from the external, my skin, my hair, going into internal. How my body works that might be slightly different from someone else who doesn't look like me, does not have a similar cultural background. So that is super important. So culturally competent is the understanding enough to keep me safe, to understand how what is needed to provide the most the best care. I'll just put it that way. The best care for me.
As a melanated person.
Yes, as a melanated person.
I think that's really well said. So well said. I just want to add that the part of that we were talking about recently, which is also making me as a patient feel that you are competent, right? And competent with all the nuances that I come up as a non-standardized sort of, patient, or rather not the standard. Being that I'm not male, being that I'm not white, being that, you may fall in or out of whatever age bracket, but sharing that with me, making me have that confidence in the care that I'm receiving so that I know you've accounted for anything that's kind of outside of what might be textbook, I would say is just the only other piece. Yeah.
And I think that last statement you said, other than what is textbook, because we got to be honest, the textbooks wasn't written for us.
Yeah.
Right? Like in any kind of way. And even some of the things that were understood at the time about us were not true. Like our pain tolerance is high and a whole lot of other things that doctors still to this day, some still believe. And so I think that cultural, I'm going to keep putting emphasis on that part, competency is very important when we are looking for doctors, because some of them still are operating on myths.
Yeah. And if we had more time, I would actually share. I would share that I experienced that, and I didn't know. But now I know we don't have time for that today. So that's for another podcast. But
you sure we ain't got time?
It is real, because here it was 2021. We're talking about only a few years. Yeah. So in the 21st century, a woman was holding my hand as I was in labor, and it was a white woman. I was in Arizona, and I did not have pain medication for this procedure. And I didn't doubt on me till afterwards, but she goes, "Oh, you're so strong." And the myth of black women and their strength, and we understand gynecology, the history of gynecology. But I recognized, because I was in so much pain, I'm like, dang, I should have screamed because I was in pain. And I probably should have gotten, the care. So that is still real and present in the 21st century. And that's why I said safety is the first thing that comes to mind.
Absolutely.
I was not in a safe environment. No. So I am advocating for that as much as I possibly can.
And we know the mortality rates when it comes to black and brown women giving birth.
Black and indigenous women. Don't forget, for sure. I don't think we talk about it enough, but that unfortunately, black birthing people, black mothers, and black infants have the highest mortality rate, followed closely by the indigenous population. So, and just like you were saying, like, this is a topic for another day. I mean, I feel like we're really getting into all those stories, all those experiences, and then also like how our understanding of society, like what we have chosen to share about ourselves, what we mask about ourselves, how we want to be perceived, that all plays to how we show up even in spaces where I should be able to scream. I don't have to be strong. Should let you know how I'm feeling, as opposed to let me be, composed. Let me keep it together so they don't think I'm that one. Like that is. I think we're definitely going to have to revisit this conversation. We're going to have to take some time and to get into it more and more, because I think these are the kind of realizations that we have to keep bringing to the surface.
And my story is actually kind of the opposite of that. Hilarious, real quick. So I'm in the birthing room, and so I went the natural route. So I went to a birthing center, and I didn't want any medicine or anything like that. So I'm theater trained, right?
I have to say this because I know how important language is. When you say you went the natural route, you mean you went unmedicated
and vaginal.
There we go.
Specifically, okay. Yes. And so I'm theater trained, and so my mind went, oh, I have to emote through this, right? So I'm in the room, right, screaming, right? And so my mom actually comes into the room, and she just really calmly comes next to me, and she said, "Why are you screaming like that?" I was like, and I stopped during labor, and had a conversation with her, like, "Oh, well, I was emoting through it, and I was using it and pushing it down." She said, "It's the opposite." She said,
"Save your energy."
Right. She said, "Take all of that and then push it down and push. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I started doing that like mid giving birth. That was
that was good. That was good.
That's beautiful.
She was on point with that. Oh my goodness.
So it was reversed. I was screaming, I was emoting, and she was like, do the opposite, use it and push. And I was like, okay. And then I got real quiet and started pushing.
And birth should be sacred, never violent. It should never be a violent space, and it is for so many Black women. But we love our mothers, our grandmothers, the whole village. Like, that is what it should be, safety. And we need those healthcare providers to be a part of that village of safety as well, and understanding us, you know.
There's the soundbite. Okay? There's
She
the
was just
soundbite.
pointing the whole time.
And a good button on like a really good conversation. I hope that, I know that because Ndula's younger, and you keep saying like you're so new. You're coming into our, I guess, your second year with first full year with us. So you're definitely
Happy
getting
anniversary.
up there.
Celebrating my anniversary soon.
Yeah, but I hope that this makes people understand a little bit more about what our purpose is, where we're going, but then also, piques their interest, to want to engage with us. Like I say, community is a verb. So, connect with us. I don't know, Natalie, if there was anything else that you were going to say, but I want to make sure people know how to connect with us.
Please do.
The warm line we were talking about, that number is 312-834-3222. You can reach out to me directly for sure, mai.heath@ndoula.org. But we're also on socials, as much as we can be. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on TikTok and also LinkedIn. So, I hope folks come out, connect with us, learn more about influence too. We're constantly growing and evolving. So, if you feel like there is something that we're a blind spot, something that we're overlooking, some niche that you need, to engage with us or that you'd like to experience, then bring that to us, because we're always open to those sort of ideas and things like that. So, and subscribe to these podcasts, right? Subscribe to the podcast, listen to the podcast, and definitely keep in touch.
Well, thank you, Ma. Thank you, Jessica. I learned a lot about NDoula. All right, it looked like Jessica was learning a lot about it. So
I was.
We learning, okay? And thank you, Ma, for sharing. Thank you for creating this sacred space for not only the people in the community that need it the most, that are the most vulnerable, but the caregivers that support those people as well.
Thank you. My pleasure. And thanks, everyone, for building to it. I'm certainly not building this alone. So, just so grateful. I love being
Teamwork
here.
make the dream work.
Awesome.
And you all, please come back, join us for the next podcast, and definitely follow NDoula everywhere you can and get to him. We'll see you next time.